I think it's easy for us to have fun, but I do believe a lot of marriages, a lot of people don't have fun together. And that's why I many times find the guy must be with these guys.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And the girl must be with her ladies to have the fun. And that in itself creates a rift, because what happens when you get older?
Marriage isn't built in the big moments alone. It's built in the everyday choices, the conversations you don't avoid, the grace you extend when it's hard, and the decisions to keep choosing each other as you both grow and change. Today, Bryan and I are having honest conversation about marriage, not from a place of perfection, but from experience. What we've learned, what we're still learning, and how we choose us even in the seasons when it's hard. Bryan, welcome to the show. After much begging and pleading with you, we finally get to sit down and chat.
Yeah, my agent finally approved, so.
So we're just going to touch on a few questions, and you can just answer however you feel, and then we can have discussion around it. Okay, so marriage evolves, right? How have we had to evolve as individuals to protect and strengthen our relationship? Obviously, we've been together for 18 years. Well, married for 18 years this year. Mm-hmm. Been together for much longer. Yeah, I think maybe just share about like what you think how we have had to evolve and grow together to sort of sustain where we are now.
I think the key, like you're saying, is the fact that we grew together.
Yeah.
I think the difficulty is like if one is growing and the other one is not.
Yeah.
I think we've been privileged with the fact that our lives are so intertwined in what we've done. Even the decisions we made, I think in the beginning when we were dating, we were still very separate in terms of where we were, what we were doing.
Yeah.
But I think even just us always being, I mean, some people don't know how they can work together as a married couple, but we've always been in the same environment all the time, worked together, did the ministry, did community development, entertainment industry, media industry. It's always been together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you both have a commitment to grow, I think then it makes life easier.
Yeah.
I think if you both have common values, common foundational beliefs, if I could say that, then it makes it easy. I think just the way our lives worked out is that we've I don't want to say fell into stuff, but we sort of each stage of our lives developed almost simultaneously. And our belief system developed at the same time. Yeah. And we believe the same things, which is very important. I think also the fact that in our lives, a lot of our decision making is not subjective, but objective to a large degree. We're governed by a set of principles in our lives, and we chose to live by these principles. And I think that helps. I think where challenges come in is where one is pushing one way, where your core values, your core beliefs are not the same, where you... because it's not just about being driven or goal-orientated or whatever, because we could have even been in different industries, in different places. But at the end of the day, there's the common belief system, the common set of values, principles that we live by, that we're always trying to pursue, ascertain, and keep us to those standards. Obviously, we're not perfect, we don't get it. But I think if we have the common ground in terms of this is what we believe, this is what governs our lives, our decision-making is this, then the subjectiveness of decisions fall away.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and I think also for us, it's having had to extend grace to one another at different points in our relationship or at different points in our growth as individuals.
I was perfect. I didn't need grace.
Yeah, I can give you a long list of things I needed to give you grace for. I will not go there. But because you can't, if you're not growing together, somebody's going to get left behind, and that's how you grow apart. Because then one is running off doing like what they think without sort of turning back and extending a hand and saying, come along with me. This is where we're going. This is the vision. And sometimes the front runner has to stop.
Sure.
So sometimes the one that's running with the vision has to stop and pause and be okay to pause and say, okay, this can wait because I need to turn back and, bring the person along with me on the journey. Whether it is, they're struggling with something, they may be tired, they feeling a certain kind of way, dealing with issues. But I think it's always that that extending of grace to the next person so that you can run together, as opposed to one running off ahead and sort of leading somebody behind. Okay. So I've got another question. When seasons are demanding, pressure, work, parenting, public life, what does choosing each other practically look like? I mean, I feel like we experience this a lot all the time because there's so much going on and there's so many things that we are responsible for. You have so many leadership roles, things that I have had to do in the last year, 2 years or so, that have added to the pressures of how do we navigate all of these things and still stay sane and, together.
I think it's understanding one another. I think it's when you grow together and you understand what we like in precious seasons and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's very, very important. I know I'm going to say this publicly is the only time I'm ever going to say it in my life. I'm not the easiest person.
Oh, can we have that on repeat, please?
I'm not the easiest person. But the fact that you can understand and lead me in seasons just to figure out certain stuff. I know there are other seasons you'll come and say, okay, cool, now what's actually happening, But I think it's understanding one another, understanding the roles that we have.
Yeah.
Understanding that, okay, there's a precious season like this now. And allow it to be, because obviously it fulfills the bigger purpose of where we're going. I think is very important. I think those are the things, like, you talk about vision, mission, and those kind of things. I think a lot of people don't even have that understanding when they get together, like I said, for us, we learned it along the way because we only learned the principles as we were growing. We were mentored by others, you know what I mean, that could teach us those things, you know what I mean. And I think that's the difference. Like, so even for us, we grew into where we are right now, whereas for other people, they don't need to. These things you can establish before you even choose to come together and choose, you know what I mean? So now we have common goals, common vision, we know where we're going. And I think in seasons where pressure and those things come, it's most times comes because you're trying to move somewhere. And if you have an understanding in the relationship with one another, like if you speak about the past 2 years for yourself, it's pointless me trying to keep things the same, to keep myself comfortable.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because I don't like it or whatever, or adding pressure to us and what must happen at home and the children and so forth. But if I understand, look, the bigger picture is here's where we're going. This is what we believe is our next season. We believe God has said this thing to happen. Then I don't have a choice in the matter. And so I've got to adapt and do whatever I need to do to make sure we can get to the outcome that we all want to see. So I think those are, when there's common goal, when you know where you're going as a family, as a unit, as a couple, when you understand, like, there's different seasons for different people. Sometimes God will shine his light on you, sometimes God's shining his light on me, sometimes you're in development, sometimes I'm in development. And if you learn those moments and learn those rhythms even in the relationship and people's lives, then I can understand, okay, it's not my season. I've got to now come and accommodate and help and make sure that I can take away the stuff that you normally do, for example, that now needs to be done in another way. And you find a solution together. So I think it's understanding each other's seasons, understanding one another, understanding how we deal with stuff. Because I'm not a speaker when I'm going through stuff. I don't talk about stuff when I'm going through stuff. I want to figure it out in my head. I want to, it's a lot of prayer, a lot of time in the Word, a lot of growth and development that takes place. And even, I think if somebody doesn't understand me that way, you would put me under pressure to have a conversation when it's not time to have a conversation. You know what I mean? So I think those rhythms that you learn with one another, understand one another, and if you're building something together, it helps.
It does help. Yeah,
it helps.
That's very good, because I think, like you said, not a lot of teaching or knowledge around building vision together or a mission together. Because when we get married, is something that's probably not spoken about that often. Is like, where are we going?
Sure.
Like, where are we going with this thing? Yes, we hang out together. Yes, we love each other. Yes, it's fun. But after the wedding day, it's not always roses. It's not always easy. It's tough. You have to deal with tough conversations, tough situations. Life is lifing. And how do you deal with that? And especially when you newlyweds and you just get into marriage, all of these things come up all the time. Like now, because we've 18 years into it, we sort of have an understanding, or we know how to navigate the challenging situations. But for others that are still sort of starting off, I think vision is key, because the vision is going to govern everything that you do. You know what I mean? It's going to keep you focused. It's like anything. If you have a vision for your business, if you have a vision for your physical body, whatever, you are drawn to what the end goal is.
I think also, like, if we look at development of life,
Yeah.
and where marriage fits in the stage of life, then I think if you can backtrack before marriage, even,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I think if
Yes,
as a
that's
young
good.
adult or person, if you had certain principles, values, your stuff established then
That's
already,
good.
knowing where you're going as a person, knowing
Yeah.
what your purpose, your mission, what God has called you to do. When you have that already as a foundation for your life, before you even get a partner,
That's good.
then all the stuff that we had to go through to figure our ways out to get to where we are, we wouldn't have had to go, because immediately you'll find that it is a match or no match
Yeah,
in the beginning.
yeah.
I think the problem is that I think, like Apostle always says, love is not enough.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? We in love and whatever, but love is not enough, because if you lack understanding, and not I'm talking about marriage, I'm talking about life. You know what I mean? If you lack those things, those deficits that are in you, when you come together as a married couple, the deficit makes a bigger deficit when you're together, and that becomes problematic. But if, like I say, if you understand more about who you are as an individual, your identity sorted out, you understand. I'm not saying you have the clearest picture in life, but you know more or less the direction you want to go. You know what you believe in, and where sort of the mission's going to take you in life, that you want to pursue purpose. Then the person that's coming next to you will automatically stay or fall away.
Yeah.
And then those things around life are already answered at the beginning. It's when you come together because you just think you're in love. But somebody else believes something completely different, and you allow that thing to be the driving force, it becomes problematic. And I'm not saying love is required, because love is where the grace comes in. It's, you know what I mean? That's gentleness, faithfulness, meekness, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So that's where those attributes come in terms of your character. But outside of that, if we don't have those other attributes in place, if we don't have those other mindsets, belief systems, values, and core principles, if that's not there, it's very difficult. You know what I mean? And I think that's why we struggled in the beginning. I mean, there's a couple of times where divorce is on the table. You know what I mean? There was a couple of times where it's like, how do we even move forward from here? But it's because we were trying to find out who we were, and still trying to accommodate another person in the picture.
Yeah.
If you get what I'm trying to say.
And then throw in some kids as well.
Exactly. And then it becomes problematic. So I think if you answer certain questions like that before you even engage, that's how I always tell people, especially the young people, when you're 24, think of marriage. Even think of dating when you're 24. I know your hormones are jumping and pumping, but there's so many things that you can put in place in your life before, because whatever baggage that person comes with, it's your baggage plus their baggage together, and that you've got to deal with moving forward.
Sure.
And that's where I think the whole Hollywood love kind of vibe, it robs people of building a successful life, you know, because at the end of the day, if we had gotten divorced, or we had to make that decision a couple of years ago, I mean, that was when we were 12 years or so married, what would have happened to the children? Now you've passed down something to another generation that brings brokenness, brings a broken family, you know what I mean? And it just messes up their identity, and now they've got stuff to work through, you know what I mean? So I just think those are things that if you can navigate that before you even get to that place, I'm not saying it's going to be easy or a breeze, but I'm saying the bigger issues you've already solved before even going together.
So starting right, starting in the right place, as opposed to trying to fix things once you're in the situation.
You know.
Let's talk about communication. What have we learned about communication, especially when we have different perspectives?
Sure. Yeah, communication. It's weird for me because I'm a speaker.
You're a chatty person.
Yeah, I'm a speaker, and also I speak. I mean, I teach at. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a public speaker, if I can put it that way, and preach and stuff. But communication is one of my more challenging things in terms of relationship. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm more the person, figure it out in your brain and do the thing that's right. That's like just where my mind goes, like, okay, if this is wrong, it's wrong. Just fix it, we'll fix it and let's go. You know what I'm saying? Why would we still talk about emotions? We don't need that stuff. You know, let's just go. We always go. And I think
And what have you learned?
That I'm still a work in progress after 18 years of marriage. I'm definitely knowing understanding each other's weaknesses. You know what I mean? I think for me, we not that we don't speak. I think we do. We talk when it's crunch time. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think the better you can get at it, the better it will be for your marriage. It's easier. I think that's also some of the times I think we found the difficulties where I'm running in that direction, or the lack of communication makes you feel maybe like you're left behind, or you're not not giving enough picture, or whatever. And then comes the point where we actually have now full-on conversation.
Yeah.
And actually define where, what, how. And I think it's just the makeup of the individuals that are together. So some areas, like you need to help me, and other areas I need to help you, kind of thing, And other areas I know I need to be better at. But I think like from that perspective, I know that my makeup is, if I see the gap, I'm going. And it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, especially with your spouse. So I think the better you can get in communication, the best. But sometimes, yes.
Look, I think for me, communication is important. Like if I have a difference of opinion, I'm going to voice my opinion. You're gonna know exactly how I feel. Just because that is how I am,
Sure.
I will your way of dealing with something, or just the way you approach a thing is you maybe have more introspection, you'll think about it, whatever. But whereas I will just say a thing and I'll say it to you, and there you go. I just needed to get that off my chest. And that's how I am in terms of communication. And I think I've also learned how to pull back on certain things that sometimes I have to say, okay, do I really need to say this right now? Like, do I really need to say what's in my head? I don't. And then there's other times where I feel like, okay, I need to speak about this thing because it's going to help me unpack it, or you will help me understand this situation. But as I definitely have learned that not everything that I'm feeling or thinking about needs to be said in a conversation. Sometimes I can sit and take some more time and, reflect on what it is that's going on. Why am I thinking and feeling a certain way about something? And then perhaps address it. Or then maybe I don't need to address it. Yeah. So it's been a learning curve for me as well. Very long curve, but I'm getting there. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So, how do we keep respect, friendship, and unity at the center, even when we don't agree?
I'm always right, so I don't know. It's no issue. So it's simple. It comes back to values, and I think what we believe. You know what I mean? So I think the respect and the unity for me is simple in terms of what we live out, the code we live our lives by, based upon the word. So there's no matter how far you get to go, whatever, we always come back to what does God say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then that determines everything anyway. So whether your emotions feel whatever you want to feel, whether you're thinking whatever you want to think, that's the word, that's the line, that's it. So you bring yourself to that point. Yeah. You've got to change to accommodate what God wants. You don't ask God to accommodate for what you want. Yeah. And then I think friendship is a bit of a difficult one. The reason I say difficult because there's so many, as your marriage grows, there's so many responsibilities. And I think it's very easy to lose that in a relationship.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's something that I definitely think that can be a challenge for a lot of people. I think for us, like I always say to people, like, she's my friend. Like, you're literally my best friend. I don't have another, like a buddy or something. I spend all my time with you. You know what I mean? And I have friends. I'm not saying I don't have friends, but I'm saying like the one person that I trust with everything is you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that portion of relationship comes because of even us being friends before and stuff. And like I said, values and what we've been through as a couple, the difficulties, the hardships, the fact that we're still with each other, even though we went through what we went through, has bonded and knitted us together. Yeah. I do believe the fun aspect of the relationship needs work for any couple.
Because you're not fun.
Oh. Yeah, I'm focused. And as I say, I think the relationship, no, but we don't have it. We don't, look, I think also I
think that's when we have time to relax, then we have fun.
Which is not often.
Because everything is always, what is the next thing? What are we doing? What do the kids need? What's the businesses? What's going on? It's always something like that.
And also I think like the responsibility of being first generation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think in our lineage and who we are, we first generation, but like business. I think your dad had business, you know what I mean? But my dad tried, failed. But I'm saying it's like your first generation and you have the responsibility of knowing that life can be better. I think that's my biggest, I don't know what you can call it, focal point of every my life.
Driver, yeah.
Is that there's life, what we experienced from marriage to parenting, finances, opportunities, what life can be better. You know what I mean? And somebody's got to put the full stop somewhere and say, we don't want to live like that anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that has been part and parcel of our push and our fight and our press in life. I mean, that's why I say, like, I look forward to the moments where we can have holiday or we can go away, because that's really when we have our fun times, you know what I mean? And I do believe it's too few and far in between, but I also believe at the same time that somebody's got to sacrifice somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Somebody's got to do so, you know what I mean? Otherwise, if you keep chasing comfort and fun times and stuff like that, your children are going to grow up without, you know what I mean? They must step on my shoulders one day when they start their journey. I don't want to be the one that gave you a disadvantage in the beginning of their journey where you're going to and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So I think that's been a big focus for us, and obviously a lot of stuff, hurdles to overcome as a couple and stuff like that. So I know we do have fun, but I do believe, like, for many people, I think because our relationship was established in different places and because of the length and term and the way we've been together, I think it's easy for us to have fun. But I do believe a lot of marriages, a lot of people don't have fun together. And that's why I many times find the guy must be with these guys.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And the girl must be with her ladies to have the fun. And that in itself creates a rift, because what happens when you get older? Children are out the house. It's just the two of you. Friends got maybe other responsibilities, and that then brings a strain in the relationship. You know what I mean? Whereas for us, I don't ever see us having a problem with that aspect of life. Being able to go away, have fun together, go and travel to whatever it is.
Yeah. And also, I think because we started together, it's like my ride or die. Like we were teenagers and we started off with nothing, and we moved up to Joburg and we just did what we thought was the right thing to do next. And there was times where we had nothing. There was times where we had to hustle. There was times where, we had to take care of kids without, like, proper finances and just stuff like that. So I think that creates a bond. I think struggle creates a bond with people. I'm not saying people have to struggle together, but you need to learn how to navigate tough times together. So that when you come out of it and you find another experience similar to that, you know how to navigate the next. So that's how you build. And then your relationships get stronger. Okay, so just just to end off the episode, if we...
I'm amazing. Yeah.
Okay. On another note, if we could speak to couples who feel like they're growing apart instead of together, what would we tell them?
Oh, wow. That's like such a hell of a question. I know. I was just saying, because there's so many things. There's so many things
there's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack. You know what I mean? I think, and that's why I'm saying I think it's a life journey, working with marriage journey. You know what I mean? And
there's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack. That's what I say. Our saving grace is we've always made the Word of God the standard. Yeah. There's no other option. Do you understand? And that's been the saving grace, that we've always come back to the place of the thing that governs every decision is God and His Word. And that's first. Before you is Him. Before me is Him. You understand what I'm saying? And that solves all the problems, because then your opinion, your emotion, whatever you think doesn't matter. You know what I mean? What do you believe? This is what God is saying. Does the Word confirm this? And if that is, then you're going. You know what I mean? I think for people that have grown apart, you need to get to that place. You know what I mean? I only know this way. I don't know another way of how to build. You know what I mean? Because, like I say, even from where we both come from, both homes, both families, both marriages, and that's what I wanted to say earlier, is that a lot of times the decisions and the way you do life, the way you do marriage is based upon the premise from where you come from. You know what I mean? A child doesn't have cognitive reasoning, I think, until they're 6 or something like that, or younger, or 4, whatever. And their personality is determined at that point. Their subconscious mind and their belief system is open to everything within its environment. So they don't receive through cognitive reasoning. They receive through pictures, through emotions, through what's playing out in front of them. So they're actually receiving a personality, a mindset, and a belief system before they even have cognitive reasoning. So the minute you have cognitive reasoning and you can actually understand your world and what's happening around you, you think you can change that thing, but you've grown with that thing. That's how many people, when they say, I'll never be like my father, I'll never be like my mother, you find they grow up and they're exactly the same. Why? Those things were put inside of you based upon what you experienced and what emotionally happened to you at that age. You know what I mean? And as you're growing up as a child. So those things dictate a lot of your decision making and actions, even in a marriage. That's why if you don't have another line, an objective point of principles, core values that is stemmed from somewhere, you know what I mean? For us, the blessing is that it's the word of God. If you don't have that, you're always going to be subjected in every conversation. It's always going to be about how I felt.
Your opinion and what you
Exactly.
think of it. Yeah.
And that becomes problematic. So I think if people have grown apart, it's because that thing is missing in the relationship, because it's very easy to grow apart, even with it in the relationship. You know what I mean? It takes work. It takes effort. It takes effort for me, like it takes effort to communicate. Like sometimes I had the most tiring day, and then you'll ask me all little questions about the whole day. I'm like, you don't have to speak again.
Because then your 25,000 words are done. How many words?
13,000. You have 25. A woman has 25,000 words a day, and a man only has 13,000. So I think, like, but when you know, okay, now I have to actually speak, even though I don't want to speak, you know what I mean? Then I know, okay, for the benefit of the relationship, I have to do these things. Why? Because we have a line that's covering us. We're choosing. We don't want to believe in divorce. We don't want to believe in a broken marriage. We don't want to believe in an unhappy marriage. We believe in, you understand?
Yeah.
And those things then govern decision-making processes. And so I think it's a broad question. Yeah. But I do believe if you have a set of principles that's governing your lives, and this is what we live according to, it changes the
And then also, that's excellent. That's good. And I think also you have to decide that you want to be there.
Yeah.
You have to decide, because nobody can force you into something, and nobody can make you do anything. And I, as a woman, need to understand I can't make you do anything. So the more I try and control situation, control you, want you to speak, want you to do all of these things that I feel is going to serve me or meet my need, the harder it is, because I have to constantly maintain that thing to force you to do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I'm just saying, from an holistic perspective, from the relationship, you have to decide, is this something that I really want? And is this something that is worth fighting for?
And something very powerful said there. The thing is that, you know, when this is what I always used to say in the beginning, people talk about marriage. I said, when you get married, you realize how selfish you are. Because you actually realize how much you want things you want.
Yeah.
And how much you're not willing to give up. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about compromising on values and belief systems, but I'm talking on little things that don't actually mean much.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? And I think when you come into the marriage with the perspective of, I've come to serve this person. I've come to lay my life for this person. You know what I mean? I've come to sacrifice for this person.
Yeah.
Then the response of that individual changes completely already.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? If I'm here and I'm talking from the perspective of understanding where we're going, understanding your purpose, my purpose, understanding that my life is here, where I'm coming to make sure that you fulfill what God has called you to fulfill, that I can give you whatever you need, be the foundation for whatever you need to fulfill the purpose, that the plan of God for your life. You know, and the same for me. When we come to serve each other like that, it mitigates all of the other stuff that can come into the process. Now, I'm not saying if we do all these things it's going to be easy, because we're still all people. We still all personality, we all have characteristics. But if those lines are there in the beginning, you're constantly changing and evolving as a couple and as an individual to become that picture. You know what I mean? And then it makes it easier as the journey goes on.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think that what you're saying is so accurate, and it's something that I touched on with one of the guests that I spoke to just about, relationships and stuff. And she was just saying, like, don't sweat the small stuff.
Sure.
Like, if your husband throws his socks on the floor, which is a pet peeve of mine, why? It's going to take you 2 seconds to pick that socks up and throw them. Why are you sweating the small stuff when there's bigger things to be concerned about? Do you know what I mean? And I think it's a silly example.
Sure.
But it is the thing, it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. It's the little things that we pick on and we harp on that is the 20% of what's not good. Whereas there's a 80%, and this was she was saying, there's so much. Think about the amazing things that your husband, I don't want to say this to you, but wow. Think of all the amazing things your husband does do for you. Think about the great times or the great conversations and the support that he is in different ways. You're worried about socks, whereas he's taking care of a whole bunch of other things that really matter. And so I think those kinds of perspectives, if we can have that, it does change a lot. It
Yeah.
just alleviates a lot of stress and pressure and unnecessary fighting
Yeah.
in the relationship. Okay, so I think we've come to the end of our episode. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for the conversation. I think you have lots of wisdom, and I want to say thank you for just sharing that with us, and thank you for just navigating this journey with me and doing life together. It has been amazing, and I know there's still so many similar things that we will experience together. But it's great to have somebody that's invested in the relationship, to know that there's certain things that I don't have to be concerned about because I know you're there. So thank you so much. I love you.
Thank you for having me. I was forced to be here today, but
Good. I'm glad you were obedient and
I was
submissive.
obedient to my heavenly call. But thank you for having me, my wife.
Yes, thank you. And I know we're going to do lots more. Feel like we need to do lots more conversations like
that
this.
the Lord is going to tell me.
So if you
It's going
want
to
to
be a
see more of this
burning bush
content,
experience to tell me, Bryan, you have to do this thing.
if you want more of this kind of content, please let us know. Type it in the comment section below, and we'll make sure that we answer all of your questions on whatever Bryan knows. Marriage is not about finding the perfect person. It's about becoming better people together. It's choosing growth over comfort, conversation over silence, and commitment over convenience. And if this conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone you're building life with. Because strong marriages and relationships don't just happen. They build one choice at a time. This is Emerge, and your next season matters.